Welcome to Spooky Stories with David. Tonight I'm going to read 2 true scary stories from Reddit. The first one comes from this user. It's called Don't Look Under the Bed. Cue the scary music. That's pretty spooky. This is the first time I've ever posted on Reddit. I had an experience when I was very young and wanted to share it. I've told close friends and family before, like a handful, but even if they say they believe you, you can tell that they don't. This happened somewhere around the age of 3 or 4 years old. My parents divorced when I was 2, and my mom didn't get remarried until I was 4. I wasn't in my crib anymore at this point, and was in my own bed. At this point, it was just my mom, sister, 1 year older, and I in the house. Everyone had their own bedroom on the first floor of the house, and it had a basement. I have so many memories from that first house, even some from before this event. I still even have a couple memories of when my parents were still together. Even though I was very young, this is a true story. I haven't had anything paranormal or unexplainable since this happened. It's a memory that pops up every so often, and I just wanted someone to hear it. I also want to know if anyone else had a similar experience. This took place in Emporia, Kansas in the mid-90s. It all started in the middle of the night when I felt my bed shake. It was nothing more than just one good shake. This woke me up and I remember just laying in my bed a little confused. I wasn't scared at this point and was just laying there awake. I would wake up in the middle of the night around this time and go play in the basement. At this point I wasn't scared of the dark or anything. So I was just laying there when all of a sudden I started hearing a rattle noise coming from under the bed in short bursts. The rattles were soft, normal tempo, and would have a pause in between bursts. I was confused and had an overwhelming feeling of looking underneath my bed to figure out what was going on. I leaned over my bed and took a peek. That's when I made eye contact with a gray being with big eyes that had a red tint to them. I remember them being fly-like, and the light from the street light coming from the window was reflecting off of them. I was completely frozen in fear and was unable to move for what felt like forever. When I finally was able to lift myself back up on the bed, I was in shock. I tried to scream out for my mom, but my voice wouldn't work. Finally, I worked up the courage to jump off my bed as far as I could towards the light switch to turn it on. After turning on the light, I looked underneath the bed to see a baby rattle under the bed, which validated that I was hearing the rattling noise. I ran to my mom's room and tried to explain to her what happened. Obviously, she didn't believe me, but I slept in her room that night. I never knew what exactly was underneath my bed, but a few years ago I was watching a documentary called The Phenomenon. In that documentary, they tell the story of Virginia Brazil UFO incident in 1996. The 2 women that encountered the being had an artist draw what they seen. It was exactly what I saw underneath my bed that night and brought me some clarity. I truly believe this story is true and have nothing to gain from it. I'm mostly curious if anyone had a similar experience or if anyone got any ideas of why this being would do this. If you got this far, thanks for reading. There's a part of me that just wants someone to hear my story. This next story is from user. It's called Them Outside the Window. I've posted on here twice about distinct events that happened when I was a child and as an adult. But there's more that happened out in Roy, Washington that I and my brother had blocked out or thought were just nightmares that we kept to ourselves. Not realizing that we had the same experience until later on when we talked about creepy things around our home. Like the teen boy with the small afro and the bloody shirt that I saw throughout the years and the deer carcass in the middle of an abandoned house. Events like these, we were told, were our imaginations or bad dreams by our parents. Up until a few days ago, as a 30-year-old man, do I remember and believe that many of these events happened. My twin brother texted me asking if I remember people outside the window and in the backyard, just beyond the fence in the woods. A memory came crashing back into my mind, something I had forgotten that terrified me to the bone. A chill went through my body thinking about it. My childhood home is in the middle of the woods in Roy, Washington. Roy is your typical small town in Washington, consisting of a gas station and an elementary school. We lived about a mile or 2 outside of the town itself, down a long gravel road with thick trees on either side. I didn't know what light pollution was until I moved out at 18. Roy was considered to be part of the Nisqually tribe's land before the town was founded in 1809. One night when I was 11 years old, I woke up to the feeling of eyes around me. My curtains were shut and my window was open. All that I could see with what little light the moon had to offer when my curtains would blow from a gust of spring air was a bedroom with comic books on a beanbag chair, action figures on a bookshelf, and a messy closet. I turned on my lamp to take a better look around my room. No scary figures in the corner magically turned into a pile of clothes or ghosts turning into a hanging coat. Everything was as I left when I went to sleep. Even though I was not scared of monsters under the bed at that age, I still checked there. I switched off my lamp and settled back in my room. It wasn't long after that the feeling of pupils directed towards me returned. I sit back up, taking in my surrounding once more with nothing but the same as before. This feeling felt more concentrated towards my window. I peeked my head from under my curtains, letting them drape over the back of my head. 10 figures stood scattered in my backyard facing the house, some 10 feet from the house, some 20, some behind the fence. I couldn't see more, but I felt more in the woods. I could not make out their faces with the light of the night sky. Their faces were blurry, distorted like static and dark. I could not see the eyes that peered at me, but nevertheless I could feel their unwavering gaze. I could hear a soft melody being emitted from one, then another would let out a melody, followed by another and another until it reached back to the first. Like communication, this wasn't a jarbled up mess of noises, but more like a soft tune being carried by the wind. I went to wake up my parents in the next room. My mom told me that I had a nightmare and that it was nothing. I told her to look outside in the backyard. My dad, now awake, told me that he would go check it out. He may have believed that it was a nightmare as well, but after the news of a neighbor having a breakdown the week prior, he wasn't going to take the chance of trespassers. He went in the dark to the kitchen window downstairs. Nothing. He told me it was safe and to go to bed. I remember as I was walking back into my room, my twin was walking out of my parents' room. By the morning, I was convinced it was a nightmare, and like many nightmares I had as a child, it slipped away from memory. Until my twin brother texted me asking if I remembered people in our backyard. He had an experience on that night. He caught them leaving though. When he heard me and my dad walking down the stairs, he saw these figures dissipate like dirt being swept away like the wind. By the time Dad and I were downstairs, they were gone. He remembers the tune that passed through them. He catches himself whistling it when he does the dishes or drives to work. We both don't know what they were. They didn't seem like people, ghosts, or spirits. They felt like something older than a ghost, something more connected to what is in the land. We just call them for the lack of a better name. We never saw them again, and they faded into nothing in my mind.